will join for another couple minutes and kick it off there.
And it seems like my camera kicked off again, unfortunately.
I can see you.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Where it is?
Danny, your cat is epic.
He's a big goofball.
I must know more. What is his name?
His name is Bruiser.
Oh,
He's about
Like the dog
6
from
or
Legally
7.
Blonde.
yeah.
Well, let's start that off as a like an icebreaker. What kind of pets y'all got?
I have
Got
2
this
cats
fella.
and 2 dogs.
What's that white dog name that you have, Allie? The big one.
Her name's Cece. Yeah, well, both of our dogs are pretty big, but we have the white dog Cece, and then Lily is the older one. They're both. Cece's like 70 pounds, and Lily is about 95 pounds. So they're biggins.
Yeah, I always say that I can't have a dog that my like a child can ride.
Yeah.
Like my Rottweiler, she weighs about 110 pounds. My American Bulldog, she weighs about maybe like 60 or so. But yeah, you definitely can ride them.
A saddle.
Yeah.
I had to put my cat down about 2 months ago.
Oh, no,
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm so sorry to hear.
She was a calico tabby,
Oh.
12 years old, and I nicknamed her Psycho Cat. So she'd run around.
Calicos can be psycho. My cat that I had for a while, that now lives with my mom since I moved out of town, I named her Mina, but it wasn't because she was mean, but she is very mean cat. I just let her stay with my mom after I moved back because I was like, I don't want to traumatize her and make her more mean.
Whenever I was sitting at the computer here, she'd curl up at my feet. Half the time I didn't know, and I'd step on her.
Oh.
Yeah, we've got a tortie, like a little cat that's tortoiseshell colored, but she blends in with our carpet constantly and likes to do the move I call the dead bug, where she just lays on her back like she's just a dead bug in the middle of the hallway. And yeah, I'm like, I mean, someday you're going to learn, but I guess not yet. So yeah, 2 cats and a dog over here.
Awesome. What about you, Paul? You got any pets?
I'm very much a cat person. Have had many cats over the years, but none at the moment.
Okay. How about you, Stephanie?
2 cats and 2.5 kids is plenty, I think. So.
So which one's worse, the cats or the kids?
Well, I mean, I think you know the answer, but the nice way to put it is definitely the cats, right? The cats.
Most definitely.
Depends on the day, right?
All right, Don. I already know you got the black kitty. What else you got? If you're still around.
Me?
Yep.
Oh, actually, we've got the black and white one passed last year.
Oh.
And we've got Biscuit. He turns a year old in a few days. And he's massive. He's around here somewhere.
See, that's why I don't like cats, because I gotta figure out where they're at in the first place, you know.
And then I've got 2 dogs running around here. Got German Shepherd and a Shepherd pit mix. Uh-oh. Apparently
that's a good mix.
Someone went and got a Biscuit for me.
Awesome. There you go. Let's see here. Dal Raj. Hopefully I said that correctly.
Yeah, you did say that correctly. Yes.
All right. So you got any pets?
No.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Look, less responsibility, you know. Like,
Yeah, hopefully in the
appreciate you
future.
coming
But,
on.
yeah. Thank you.
All right. How about Brandy?
I have a dog and 4 cats. 3 of them are black cats, and one of them's a Duluth Tortie, and the dog is a beagle. He's a big beagle, though. He's like 40 pounds.
Is he a digger? Like
Is
he
he-
loves to dig, something like that.
He's just overall like a sausage, basically. He's laying on the floor behind me, actually, right now.
Well, that's great. That's great. Thank you for being here. Let's see here, Matt. Got any pets, Matt?
Yeah, I was muted. We have a calico, so that would be our only little fur baby. Her legal name is Peridot. We refer to her as Ferg Turgeson, kind of a play on the Turd Ferguson SNL skit. She lives up to the name. She's quite the little Hellraiser.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Next, we have Reed.
Hey, so I have 2 cats. This one right here, he likes to climb all over me a lot. His name is Fox Mulder. And then we have another cat. Her name is Dusty. She's a bit more, but yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, I can see that she was already in the lap. So let's see here. Next, we have Rebecca.
We have a puppy. He's almost 16 weeks, and he's going to be a very large dog. He's about 40 pounds.
He's already 40 pounds of being a puppy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. Go ahead and get those bags of dog food.
Yeah, I think he was 30 pounds at his last rounds of shots. So he gets his next round on the 24th. He's a doodle mix. So he's big. His parents were not that big. He's shocking everybody.
Well, let me know when those puppies come around because I love puppies. So, you know.
Oh, yeah, he's super cute.
Well, thank you for being here. Let's see. Next, we have Nicholas.
Oh, hi, everybody. Let's see, pets. I have one kid and one coming in December. So, and then for fur babies, I have one 110-pound rescue. And then we have a mouse as well. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm big on rescues. Like both of my dogs are all rescues. Like all the dogs I've owned have been rescues. So.
Oh yeah, they make some of the best dogs for sure.
Tight. Awesome. So, did I miss anybody? Anybody else got any pets? Oh, of course, Monica and Mr. Snape.
I am blessed with the care and feeding of a 12.5-pound panther named Professor Snape, after the Harry Potter character, because he has an intense personality and is fairly bitey.
Oh, has Snape brought you any more treats or anything of the sort?
We're at 3 live mice and 2 dead mice so far for the season, and then 1 dead bird and 1 live bird.
Well, at least he's bringing to you alive for the most part. So
He's concerned about the family. I'll give him that. He definitely wants to make sure that we can hunt so we will not starve to death.
Right, yeah. Try to make sure you eat. All righty. Well, thank you all for the icebreaker. I always like to do those kind of things before, like, starting off a conversation so we know each other and, feel a bit more comfortable, like, having a conversation with one another or whatnot. So today, we're going to be going over, like, resumes, applying to jobs, interviewing, and the whole, the issue out there is being willing to apply for jobs and not being afraid to apply, right? So the volatile job market and all that kind of good stuff. Okay. So to kick it off, let's see. So Kelly unfortunately is not able to be here with us this evening, but she had a couple of talking points for us to go over. Okay. The first talking point that she had was templates are not your friend. Okay. A lot of people aren't aware that actually templates actually have code written inside of them that could be an issue when you go to upload your resume to a job board site, whether it's LinkedIn, Indeed, or whatever it may be. Templates are not a good way to go. All right. Especially the template that has the skills bar on it, where you're basically rating yourself. Stay away from that completely. Employers don't care about that at all. All right. So simple is always best. All right. Now, if you're going to like UX, UI design, and stuff like that, yeah, maybe you might want your resume to look a little bit more fancy or whatnot. But then that's when you get into the realm of you have a resume that you upload to a website, and you have a resume that you actually hand to a person. Okay. Paul. So people used to do that all the time. So what Paul mentioned was back in the day, people used to like have all this stuff whited out, and it had like a million skills in order to be able to make it past the applicant tracking system, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. ATS systems nowadays, ATS like nowadays, they catch on to that. Okay, do not just white out your experience and stuff like that, or your skills or whatever. Actually tailor make your resume to the particular job that you're going for. All right, and again, we're gonna talk about that a little bit here down the road. All right. What's another talking point? So 1 or 2 page resumes. Does anybody have like an issue with that? Like you try to cram everything into 1 page? And it's okay. This is a safe place. Are you still in the mind frame of having a 1 page resume?
I think mine's like 3 pages. And then my government one's like none.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of folks actually it spills over to 3 pages, to be honest with you. But in reality, a 2-page resume is completely acceptable. Okay. Don't limit yourself to 1 page. We have to think about the market and the way people move around with jobs nowadays. Okay. The gig economy actually kind of really started doing that. So it's okay that you have a 2-page resume. As long as you print it off and it's front and back, you're good to go. All right. But also, too, you can fit in a lot of information in those 2 pages. All right. Now, if you feel like there's going to be something that's going to spill over, put it into a cover letter. All right. If you have work history that's beyond 10 years, put it into a cover letter, because that experience might actually attribute to the particular job that you're going for. All right. Anybody got any questions about that?
I've got something I wanted to add. When I'm talking with people about putting the resume together, think that the dumbest AI that has ever existed is going to read this before anyone else. Simple fonts, single column. Don't put things in multiple columns. If you have your skills listed in 3 columns, that AI may very possibly simply read straight across. So the information that it's going to report back is basically that your resume is a mess of jumble of words, but not necessarily content. So plain text, one column, keep things very simple.
Let's see here. Blake has a hand raised. What's up, Blake?
I had a question relating to what Monica just said about columns. So we've definitely talked about that and knew all that. But when I was putting mine together for the, was it module 3 assignment to turn that in, you know, I was trying to edit it and format it and stuff. If you say, like in Word, click on the ruler, you can put a little mark, right? And when you hit tab, it'll tab over to there instead of starting from the left side of the screen. I think the feature is just called putting tabs on the ruler. But if you do that, does Word count it as a like separate columns? So like an AI have trouble if I formatted my resume using that method?
I wouldn't risk it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to simplicity is key. It doesn't have to be extra fancy or anything of the sort. You know, due to COVID, a lot of folks don't even like actually have like physical resumes to hand off to a person nowadays, right? Just make sure that it's going to be in line to be able to be picked up by the applicant tracking system of whatever job or site that you're applying to, okay? Or wherever you want to put your resume on, all right? And Monica, Allie, tell me if I'm wrong.
Nope, I'm on board.
Oh, Laura, we have a hand raised.
Yeah, I think I know the answer to this, but are references just a thing of the past now as far as putting references on resumes?
I would say just, you know, especially if you're mass applying to a lot of places, to just leave them off. And if you want to put something like references available upon request or something, that's always great. Yeah, I just don't think, especially with, you know, technology these days, you probably don't want to put people's information out there
Very
in
true.
that way. So yeah, I don't usually include it. And then I also like to tailor who my references are based on the job I'm applying for.
Right.
Not that, I mean, if you're applying specifically for, you know, only one type of role, that's one thing, but just having that flexibility there, I think is good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I would also recommend that if you do give out a sheet of your resume references to an employer, make sure that you give those contacts a heads up that you have done so.
Yeah. Yeah. Let them know. Okay. As a previous hire manager, I would just like to see if people would be willing to put in that extra like foot forward to see if they actually had some references when I never utilize a family, close friends, you know, stick towards like community partners or like past employers and stuff like that. That's where you want to go in regards to your reference point. But also too, I was an a-hole. I just wanted to see they actually had some people to show up. All right. We got any other questions on that topic? All right. Then. Let's see here. So unfortunately, David is not able to be with us this evening. But he did want to mention transferable skills. Okay. So does anybody know about transferable skills / soft skills? And what does that necessarily mean?
It's got to have you like communicate with other people and how you go about doing your work and stuff like that.
Okay. So Michelle, let me ask you, what are some transferable skills that you might have, or soft skills that you might have that would attribute to a different job that you're trying to get into?
Well, generally, like at work, when something goes wrong, I'm the first person they contact, and I usually have to, even if I don't know exactly what's wrong, I usually do the troubleshooting and try to, figure out how the best way to go about doing something. I try to be more efficient and try to, use as many,
So
many tools
efficiency,
available.
the ability to communicate. What else did you say?
Problem solving, like being able to, work out issues with things that you don't really may not be familiar with and things like that.
Yeah. So actually, you're hitting the nail on the head right there. Okay. I know as you all go on your coding journey and stuff like that, that you might feel what's it called, imposter syndrome, as to where you look at a job description, you feel afraid as you're trying to get it, but guess what? You have those particular set of soft skills, those transferable skills that make you valuable to another team, right? So you don't have to know everything right up front. Is that right, Don?
That's right.
There we go. See, he's a coder right there. I'm not. But being willing to put yourself out there, but focusing on your transferable skills, that's what makes you valuable to a team. Okay. So don't be afraid to apply for jobs. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody and say, I don't know, right? Because you have those transferable skills in spades, especially if you ever worked in the restaurant industry or service industry, retail, all this other kind of stuff where you have to just deal with people on a daily basis. You have transferable skills in spades. And as you look through that job description, yes, you might concentrate on the actual physical abilities and whatnot. But what they're really asking you for is, are you going to be valuable to the team? Monica,
I've also
Allie?
noticed, I've also noticed a big, it just depends on the employer. Like we have some employers who, are open to, being full on like mentors to their junior level developers who will, kind of hover and be helicopter if you need it. And if that's something that you feel like you need, then you may be a good fit for an environment like that. We have other employers who are still flexible on you not knowing everything when you start, but are going to be really dependent on you learning things on your own. So, Amatrol is an example of that latter where basically I was told that their team, they'll basically be around to answer questions once or twice a week, but a lot of it will be you working on your own, learning on your own, kind of being organized, compiling questions for them, and then coming to them in designated times with those questions. So they were looking for someone who definitely considers themselves to be like a self-starter, which I think in order to get through this program and finish it, a lot of people, it kind of requires that you be that way, which is nice. So just getting a feel for like the culture at the employer that you're working at is going to be really important.
I would add to that to consider some of the adjacent skills around your specific path that you're looking at. So, for example, if you're looking at taking JavaScript, or if you're learning HTML and you want to do websites, do you also know Adobe software? What are your other skills? Are you also a photographer if you have a graphic design background? Because the skills that you learn in taking on those skills, you're going to be able to literally transfer those to working on building web pages and other things. And say if you are doing data, if you're doing software, what other skills do you have? Like, do you know Salesforce? Do you know any other proprietary softwares like Epic? If you know Epic, which is a proprietary hospital enrollment and patient management system, you can get a job just about anywhere because not everyone offers that kind of training. So the outside skills that you have fostered in whatever career that you've had up until this point, you are not leaving those skills behind. You're going to take those and utilize those skills in your new work setting.
And Danny, do you have something to add to that?
For the soft skills section?
Yeah.
Yeah, just really breaking down any tests that you do regularly under work. Like the young lady mentioned earlier, being dependable and things like that. Just taking a situation and then figuring out what skills you use regularly to solve those problems.
And that's what it comes down to, folks. Applying for jobs, searching for jobs, getting to the interview process, all that kind of stuff. It is like a small science to it, but it's actually not all that difficult. So make sure you keep on reaching out to us. That's why we want to have this meeting right here. All right, let's see here. All right, so applying to jobs. Miss Monica, you had job board sites and avoiding the easy apply button.
Yes, the danger of the easy apply button. As you know, your tech employer specialists comb the job boards on a daily basis to try to provide you with a selection of current applicable jobs in the Slack channels, job Slack channels for each region. And we do that because we want to make sure that everyone has, the best selection of jobs available. And we want to make sure that those jobs are active and available when you want to go to apply for them. Now, sometimes 24 hours after we've selected something, it may be down. There's nothing you can do to help that. Just move on to the next one. But there are things that you can do to make yourself more attractive or more visible to employers. Now, if you go to a job board site like LinkedIn or Indeed or through LinkedIn or Indeed or Glassdoor or any of the other job aggregator sites, you're going to see something called an easy button that you can just click on and automatically upload whatever resume that you have saved in that system. And while that may seem like it's beneficial because it allows you to generate more volume of places that you're applying to, unless you are tailoring that resume and specifically uploading it each time that you click that easy button, upload that specific resume, you are losing out on an opportunity to set yourself apart from other applicants. And when you're using the easy button, that is going to draw the largest number of applicants possible for that job. So instead of only competing with so many, say, 36 people who applied directly through the website, you're competing with 300 people who clicked on the easy button through LinkedIn. So what I would recommend is start researching companies that you think you might want to work for, industries that you might want to work in. Look at where people that you admire or people who you follow on LinkedIn, where are they working and what are those environments like? Go to those websites and set up career alerts directly with those websites. So when opportunities come up, you get the alert, you're the first person to get the alert, and you have the opportunity to tailor that resume and respond exactly to what they're asking in that job description. Your resume can be an exact match answer if you take the time to do that. But just hitting that easy button and just quickly uploading an existing resume without doing anything to it, that is going to be the hardest pool of applicants for you to distinguish yourself in. So I would avoid those if at all possible. So when I'm going to be posting a potential job on the board and I see that it has an easy apply button, I will actually go back to that company's website and go to their career page and see if there is the opportunity to apply directly through that. Sometimes there's not, and I'll go ahead and just post the link with the easy apply. But if at all possible, connect directly with the employer and just try to avoid. I know that it seems easy, but most things like most things in life, if it's easy, it's probably not what you actually wanted or needed.
Most definitely. So what do you have to say about tailor-making your resume?
Tailor-making your resume is your opportunity to show that potential employer that you are not just a good match for the job, you are the best match for the job. You are the only match for the job, and they need to speak only to you about this job. So when I'm tailoring a resume, take the job description, think of it as This is asking a question. What are the questions that it's asking? And then how, through your resume, can you answer the questions from that job advertisement, from that job description? Go through, and if you need to, highlight them. What are the different main things that they're specifically asking? And then look at your resume. Can you match them one for one? And if you can, great. If you can't determine that, then I would recommend using one of the job match websites that August talks about in his workshops and will share with the public, will share with students. Do that job match and see what your percentage match is, and then go in and retool your resume to make sure that you've got a good match, and then send it on.
Yep, telemaking is all is what it's all about. How about you, Allie?
I think you guys got it covered in this round.
Oh, okay, cool. But no, you know, telemaking your resume is very important, right? Like that's why we want to talk about the easy apply button, because it's easy to do, right? But you need to telemake your resume every single time to make it past the applicant tracking system. Anybody know about that?
I would also just say if you are doing that, just be careful, because it's just more room for typos when you're in. So
yeah,
make sure you know what you're changing each time and all that stuff.
And so that's why it's important as well to actually keep track of the resumes that you're utilizing to apply for a particular job. I learned this from Monica, like, you know, like to actually track, you know, the jobs that you're applying to, like set up a spreadsheet and you put down the company that you apply to, the position you apply to, as well as the resume that you utilize, the date that you applied to that job, and if you heard something back or not, right? You know, like just having that like kind of like spatial sense like goes a long way, and it helps out completely. Monica, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
I did, but I completely lost what I was going to say. Allie, you got anything that you want to add? And I'll see if I can follow up after you.
Oh, all good.
Oh, the one thing I did want to add about tailoring your resume, save those. Don't just save them. Don't just copy one for the other. Actually save individual copies of each of those resumes, because you never know a job that you applied for now that maybe it didn't work out. The next time you go to apply for jobs, you may apply for something with the same company, and you can pull resources from that. Save everything.
And again, that goes back to the whole adage of like tailor-making your resume for the particular job that you're going for. Okay, so we need to make it past the applicant tracking system. That's basically an algorithm that reads over your resume before any human being ever lays eyes on it. All right. I don't know about y'all. I don't like being ghosted. I'd rather hear a yes or a no. But you know, if you're not hearing a yes or a no, that means you didn't make it past the system in the first place. So that means that you don't have certain keywords that were matching up with that job description in order to make it past that ATS system to hear a yes or no, in order to be able to be in contact with the human being in the first place. Now, with something like that, if you want to learn some of the tools and stuff like that, that's all free. Please hit me up. I'm always around, and I'll be able to walk you through that. Okay. Let's see here.
Any questions on any of that we've covered so far?
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said, are there any questions on anything that we've covered so far?
Yeah, please speak up. Look, the closed ones
job-
don't get fitted.
The job matching websites. August, could you drop that in the chat?
Yeah. Give me just a sec. Just gotta pull them up. Mm-mm.
I have a question. Right now, I'm wanting to change careers, and in my whole work history, it seems like I've changed careers about every decade. And the thing I guess I want to be able to showcase is the fact that for each position I never had any prior experience, but but well into my career of that, I was actually like one of the best ones, doing that type of work. How would I showcase that? How would I go about showcasing that?
You are a highly adaptable learner. I would showcase if you took on a role and then received advancement in that role, I would mention something about how quickly you were able to learn the material, or how quickly you were able to gain promotion or mastery over the subject, or that you have been able to take different topics and skill up quickly in order to meet expectations. That's a probably a good way to put it too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Blake had something in the in the messages here. I'm not sure if you saw it, but that's a good conversation piece for your cover letter, or also for an interview to talk about your adaptability.
And the interview is where we really want to be, right? Talking face to face. Well, most likely computer to computer nowadays. But letting your personality shine. It's just getting past that daggone applicant tracking system. Just be able to talk to a human being. It goes a long way. Okay. And so that's why we're utilizing keywords, all this other kind of stuff to make it past that ATS, just be able to talk to a person. It's not like how it was back in the day where you just like you walk inside a place with a resume in hand and hand it over to somebody at the front counter. It don't work like that no more. So, yeah. And also too, being willing to hear the word no. I know it sucks, but hearing no is better than hearing nothing at all. So
that is absolutely the honest truth right there. And I know that everyone that's applied for jobs and stuff like that, you're a good match for the job. You should get a call back, but you're not. That sucks. No one wants to wait. And then even then, once you even get in that process too, like I've had jobs take months to go through. That's tedious, but it's all, it's all things that can and do happen in this process. So keeping yourself, as August was saying, keeping yourself as organized and stuff like that as possible is key. And just being patient, be active, but be patient, because some of these things do take a while. I know from my own experience hiring people that, sometimes it's not necessarily like I want to hire the person right now, but you've got to wait for budgets to come in and they tell you to go ahead and start looking. But then you're like, oh, what? Oh, well, we just said start looking. So that just meant think about it, not actually like actively start, all kinds of things. So people, sometimes things like that happen. Or I've even seen where people have almost, get to the point where they're hired, but then budgets and stuff come back, and they're just, sometimes you just got to be patient and hope for the best.
Most definitely. And I love what you said, Don. being patient. You know, it's not going to come to you automatically. Like I've talked to multiple students in the past. I'm like, oh, how many jobs have you applied to in this past week? And they say, oh, 2. No, that's not acceptable. You need to apply for like 5 jobs per day. Allie, Monica, do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially if you're on the market, you don't currently have a job, I would say 5 a day at least. And, you know, maybe if you are currently working, obviously you've got other responsibilities. I would say 2 a day. Generally my preferred way of doing it is to be consistently looking throughout the week, save job postings, and then spend a day or, you know, an evening and apply to like 6 at once, you know, and do that every 3 or 4 days so those don't expire. But of course, if you see one that's been posted for 2 weeks and you really like it and it's like exactly what you want, just try and apply to that as soon as possible, because it might be, you might just squeeze into that last round of applicants.
Monica?
I'd like to add something to the interview process. If you do get an interview for a job, and I found in the past, if you know you feel like you're a good fit, they like you, something happens and you're not interested in the job anymore. Like one I interviewed for, it was just too much responsibility and I didn't feel like I'd be a good fit for it. I told them that. They were super excited that, you know, they weren't going to waste time farther pursuing me. But then later on, they had other positions open up and they did reach back out and was like, hey, we think you'd also fit good in this one. Are you interested? So it's another good thing.
So basically staying in contact, you know, especially after you hear something back from somebody, right, Danny?
Yeah, or even during the interview. Like mine was during the interview. I just told them like, hey, this isn't going to be a good fit for me. And, you know, being somebody that's interviewed a lot of people, I really appreciate that because, you know, then you're not putting more time into that person that's not interested and you didn't know that.
Right, right. Awesome. Thank you, Danny. Miss Monica?
Let's see, anything that I would add to interviewing discussion, when you get an interview or if you're networking, try to have good questions. Think about good questions ahead of time, things that are based on the job description. Try to write things down ahead of time, and then as you go through the interview, you can sort of mark off what topics they actually covered. And when you get down to the end and they say, hey, so if you have any questions for me, hopefully you either have something that you can talk to them about, or you can tell them or even show them, no, look, you answered all my questions. I think that I'm a great match for this. I would say it's okay if during an interview you don't have an answer for something. And it's okay to say, I don't have an answer. Sometimes you will be asked questions that either don't have a direct answer or you're not actually expected to know it. What the employer is trying to gauge is, one, how do you approach something that you don't know? And two, how do you handle it when you find that you are faced with not knowing something? What is your response? Do you act out? Do you get frustrated? Does that pique your curiosity? Like what is your response as a human being to that situation? And if you have, yes, and don't BS them. Definitely they're going to be the content expert at that time. You are not. So don't try to BS them on their own content. However, if you do find that there's a question that maybe you felt like you should have been able to answer and you couldn't, after the interview, you always want to send a thank you note, whether that is a thank you note electronically, or as I actually prefer, get an actual blank note card, write a thank you note, and then answer that question or ask them a question related to the interview, which tells them, one, you're passionate, two, you have your stuff together, you have some idea of what you're doing, and three, it says that you really want this particular job. And in a note of some sort, whether it's electronic or an actual physical card that you sign and drop in the mailbox when you leave that interview, that will stick you in their mind over and above everybody else if you do that.
And I'll add to that in regards to like being on LinkedIn. If you're able to find that interviewer on LinkedIn, reach out to them. Send them a thank you message directly on there. Because they're able to put a name to a face once again. So LinkedIn profiles are like really important to say the least, you know. So make sure that you're on there, you're active, all that kind of good stuff. You have your profile set up, you know, your about me section, your profile picture, your banner, all that kind of good stuff. Make sure that you're active on there, okay? Because I don't know if y'all like me. Well, 80% of employers actually go seek out your social media profiles, okay? And like I said, I don't know if you like me. I don't know. I don't want them to find my old Facebook postings from when I graduated high school, because I was a different person back then. You know? So we kind of want to drive them towards our LinkedIn profiles, okay? So make sure that setup is full, all that kind of good stuff. All right. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, on the resume, how far back do you go for your work history? I mean, I was told 10 years, and I've got a lot of stuff in the last 10 years. A lot of work.
Allie, Monica, y'all want to take this one?
Yeah, I think you kind of is a case by case basis. I'm kind of the mindset of like, if you're early career or a career changer, it's fine if your resume is 2 pages, like we talked about earlier, if all of that experience is relevant. But you know, I think the 10-15 year rule, if 10 years ago, you know, you were at Kroger, or, you know, you were at, I don't know, wherever it may be, if it's not relevant to your current job search, taking it off. But I would avoid selecting, you know, as far back as you go. You want to have a consistent, you don't necessarily want to have a career gap unless you actually had a career gap. Like if you worked at Kroger for 1.5 years after a relevant job, you still want to have that on there, because you don't want to have a career gap if you were actually working. So it kind of just depends. And when you get to that point, with August and Jenny, you can make that decision. You know, I think that I've had people take off experience that was like actual relevant tech experience just because it was past 10 years. I don't necessarily think that that's a good thing. I think, but it's a matter of opinion, and it kind of just depends on, it might depend on the employer you're applying to. So it's just something to kind of keep an open conversation with, and may depend on the job you're applying to.
Yeah, I know the last you're talking about Kroger, and actually Kroger is part of my resume, because I left Kroger April 2020, but I had started there back in September 2007 in the
Oh yeah, then you'll want to have
inventory
that on there.
department.
Yeah, I mean, longevity like that is great. I mean, when I use Kroger as an example, it was more like if you worked at Kroger when you were 18 or something like that for 1.5 years, that would be something that you could eliminate. But when you have longevity like that with an employer, even if it's not relevant, I think that that's definitely something you want to include. Also, because it's not going to take up a whole lot of space on your resume if you worked there for, 12 years. So, so yeah, definitely I would keep something like that on there.
Okay.
And never negate any experience that you've garnered over the years. Okay. I've talked to multiple persons. They're stay-at-home parents and stuff like that. They'd be like, "Oh, I don't have a work history." Yes, the hell you do. like taking care of the household, home, stuff like that. That's the job. Like, you're not getting a physical paycheck out of it, but you still have like you were still working, you know. So yeah, let me turn it over to Monica.
I think
You're
you're
on mute,
muted,
Monica.
Monica. Oh, is it not working? Um,
Hit the button.
yeah, I think it's her headset that's not cooperating, but it does say you're muted on
Yeah.
my end. Where are we in our little table of contents here, August? Are we moving into interviewing here soon?
Yes. So
Okay.
that's Danny's about to talk about networking, and then we're about to get into interviewing.
Okay, cool. I was just trying to get an update on where we're at. Danny, you want to go ahead and talk about networking, and then if Monica has something to add, if she gets her things sorted, we can revisit that.
Yep, absolutely. Networking super important. You know, you can do it virtually, in person. Actually, here in this call, there's quite a few mentors, and I've met them all personally, most of them, at some of the different events. Nice things about that is you can gain some industry insights. You know, you could talk to them more about the job that they're working, the technologies that they're leveraging, which in turn can help you on some of the projects that you're working on, especially if there's a company you're really interested in working in and you talk to somebody in that field and you're like, oh, hey, turns out they're actually migrating away from, you know, JavaScript and going to Golang. So you could transform one of your projects to do that migration yourself. And then when you apply, you've got relevant work experience to show off, like, hey, I've migrated my things as well. Got a proficiency in my JavaScript, and I've got a little bit of knowledge here. And I've heard you're doing the same thing, so that's really cool. You can build a reputation amongst people. That goes both ways. It could be good or bad, but you know, you ideally want to bring the best you out, and you know, you network with people and make friendships, and then they're likely to then refer you to the job, or if you talk to them and you're applying, people like to hire people they know and have experiences with rather than a stranger that they've never met. So that's some great stuff there. You could potentially gain some mentorship opportunities there, whether it be you mentoring somebody new to the community, or maybe you gravitate towards somebody and they're willing to kind of take you under their wing and provide you some knowledge. And then also, I've seen a lot of collaborative opportunities come out of that. You know, you go to these meetups and people have their laptops, are excited to show off what they've been working on. It might be a long-term collaboration, or you just might be able to help them solve a problem that they have there on the spot. So that's definitely cool. And then you show off your stuff and you might get some, you know, a new knowledge base built there where they're like, hey, I see that you're doing this, but it would actually be, you know, faster if you were to approach it this way. So gives you a lot of new perspectives and things like that.
So, Danny, let me ask you this. How important is it to have like more than like the capstone project? You know, like, you know, whether it's like open source code or something like that. Like, how important is that?
Yeah, it's absolutely super important. When you're going to apply for a place, if you just have one project that you have completed, you know, it's nice if you're a fresh graduate, but ideally over time you want to have all these things to show off that you've built a progress of your learning. I like to see people, you know, maybe complete their capstone project, do 2 or 3 additional projects, and each time incorporating, you know, new technologies into it, new resources that they had used previously. Then going back to, say, their capstone project and making a whole new version of it, incorporating, you know, those MVPs that you didn't get to do in your capstone. You know, maybe put it in a Docker container, different things like that to really elevate the game. And then you can, you know, in a separate README file, you could then illustrate like, hey, I revisited the project. It's been 6 months. Here's the takeaways that, you know, I did this initially to graduate my cohort, and then I added these technologies, did this, refactored that, so on and so forth. So that continues your learning and then shows the employers a clear and concise what you can do over time.
Yeah, so with the extra projects, whatnot, it doesn't have to be like anything extra fancy. It just shows you know, that they're willing to learn new things, stuff like that?
Sandy?
I think also it can be a work in progress as long as it's something that, you know, you have something to show for it from what I've seen. But yeah,
Yeah.
Sandy, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think when I was a hiring manager, it's actually really interesting to hear the problems that you like took on and solved. I think having, you know, if you work on something that's like for your capstone, if you pick something that, you know, you have a problem, you're trying to solve it with software, you write something, that's great. But then like what I wanted to hear about is less about the specific technologies that you chose and more about the process that you went through to pick those. And like I want to know that I can trust you to write code and like make good decisions. And at the end of the day, that's what your code should tell me, that, oh, like I didn't know how to do this. Like Danny mentioned, like adding Docker containers or something. It's like, well, I didn't know how to do this, but I had problems deploying. So I looked into containerization. I picked Docker because it was, you know, the most common thing. Like I learned the syntax, I figured this out, and it solved my problem of being able to deploy. And I think there's like framing, like there's a balance between like talking about the minutia of like the specific in the trenches problems that you had and your overall approach of like your strategic vision of how I'm going to approach solving something I don't know how to do. And having multiple projects or revisiting a project and redoing it with like a different vision is actually really helpful it was for me as a hiring manager to calibrate on like, what can I expect you to take on? And like level you appropriately when you start, if that makes sense.
So basically saying to a hiring manager that, hey, I might not know this, but I'm willing to learn it. I'm willing to put in the time to learn it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And even talking about like, oh, I had a similar problem, or I had, you know, this is kind of like the time I needed to figure out how to do X, Y, Z. And walking through the process for that is super great.
Oh man, I need to get you on camera to record something. I appreciate it. Let's move over to Miss Monica. She hopped back on.
Okay, I think, did that work? Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Okay.
I can hear you.
I know that we're ticking down right to the last minute, but I wanted to say real quick, especially for those of you who are in the same, you know, age bracket that I am, where I am pushing 50 with both hands, you might want to de-age your resume. You don't necessarily need to put the year. If you have a college degree or an advanced degree, you don't necessarily need to put the year that you received that on your resume. While discrimination against individuals applying for jobs over the age of 50 is illegal, implicit bias, you know, haunts all of us. So take indications off your resume that will specifically age you unless it is applicable to the job that you are applying to.
Yep. And I know, like you said, Monica, we are running a little bit low on time. Normally we go a little bit over 7, but did we want to go ahead and move into, I could kind of do Kelly's portion here, the interview and the salary negotiations in one little lump here, if that's all right with you all.
Yep, go ahead and knock it out.
Okay, awesome. So, you know, there's a lot of things that I talk about with folks, and August and Jenny do this as well, talking about preparing for interviews. And even if you kind of consider yourself to be a good interviewer, there's some things you can do to just make yourself feel more comfortable. So I've shared a document in the chat that you're welcome to look at and kind of keep on file. If you need another link to it down the line, let me know. But I'll just go through this really quick. The personal pitch is a great thing to always have and to kind of tailor to whatever job you may be applying for. It's usually a 30 to 60 second little spiel about yourself, what you're looking for in a job, that kind of thing. Because a lot of recruiters nowadays will start that interview with tell me about yourself, and that's not something you want to freeze up on. So make sure you have something along those lines prepared. Make sure you have a couple bullet points about yourself that make it personal, but also a couple bullet points about your professional experience that can really highlight why you're interested and why you're a good fit for the role. Really quickly, these other methods, STAR method, you may have heard before, is how you can answer situational questions. So anytime someone asks you, tell me about a time that you dealt with conflict in the workplace. Tell me about a time that you had multiple projects to juggle at the same time, that kind of thing. Any of that can be answered using the STAR method. And using that acronym, just make sure you really hit all those points. A lot of times when I was an interviewer, people would not actually give me the result. They would just say, oh yeah, I was really busy at this one time at work, and I managed my time and I made lists and I prioritized. It's like, okay, well, did you keep your job? Did you get fired? Like, what was the deal? Like, how were you busy? Did you deliver for your client? Like, what was the result? And that's really what they want to hear. The thesis method is, I don't know if there's another name for this that other people use. This is something I kind of made up, but this is for non-situational questions. So when people ask, like, why is diversity important in the workplace? Or what do you think defines a healthy workplace environment? Things like that, that are more theoretical questions. Making sure that you keep your responses organized to those is really good. So have an overarching statement or a thesis statement somewhere in there that outlines all your points so that your interviewer can write that down and make note of like your actual answer. Because, a lot of times interviewers, like I used to do anywhere between 8 and 15 interviews in one day. And so when you can't take good notes on what your candidates are saying, it's going to be really hard when you're looking back to kind of evaluate those again, remember what they said, and make a good judgment call on whether or not you want to move them forward. So making sure that those answers have at least a few parts that are organized and not just super rambly the whole time. And then lastly, quality questions. You all know about this one, so I will kind of just leave that in the document there for you all to review. Let me get through this little bit about salary negotiation. Please, if you have any questions. Oh, the STAR method is outlined in the here. We'll go through the chat once I get through these salary negotiation things. Please put any questions you have in the chat. So just a couple things about salary negotiation, especially when it comes to being a career changer. There's only so much you can do, but you do have some things in your power. So researching the market, finding out the average salary for what you're going into, what level you're going into, whether it be data analysis, software development, any of that. You can use Glassdoor, you can use PayScale, but honestly, Reddit is pretty good for getting an idea. I mean, the chances that you find somebody posting about salary, whether it be at a certain company or a certain job, you can usually find some information. People have already been talking about that on there, especially Reddit is pretty popular among techies. So Reddit's always a fun one to try and see if you can find some information on. We talked about transferable skills. Hopefully you've highlighted those from the start. Like we've been talking about, but once you get an offer, during any negotiations, you can professionally reiterate your relevant experience. If you have 10, 15 years experience in the workplace, period, even if it's not in this exact field, that is worth something. If you have a master's degree, even if it's not in that field, if you have a bachelor's degree, even if it's not in that field, all of those things are worth something and should be taken into account when it comes to salary negotiations, especially once you have an offer in hand. Just be confident, honest, and assertive about everything. Just because, this may be a junior level position doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to pay your bills, obviously. The reality is that recruiters and hiring managers, they understand how expensive it is to exist these days, especially if you have children or other family that you care for. And especially, again, once you have this offer in hand, you can express, your salary needs around these responsibilities to the extent you feel comfortable. And, you know, they say that your salary ask should be about 10 to 15% more than what you can bare minimum accept to pay your bills. So you have that room to negotiate, which brings me to my penultimate point, which is being flexible. You definitely want to have that goal in mind, but it may not always be something the company is able to, or well, willing to offer. I don't want to say able. Most companies are able to. Also, whoever you're communicating with, just keep in mind, they might not have the power to make those authorizations, like say, oh yeah, we can do that. So keep in mind, you're not always negotiating specifically with them. They may take it back to somebody above them and have to have it approved. And be flexible around what you're negotiating. So depending on the company, you may be able to negotiate other things. So how much of your health care the company pays for, your 401k matching, and even in some startups, you know, if you're lucky enough to get on as a junior developer at a startup, sometimes there's stock options. So keep in mind those other things. If you are offered these other things in lieu of a salary bump, make sure you research their value really well before you agree to, before you accept those. And then lastly, especially as a junior level developer in a career changing role, understanding your promotion path. So when I say that, I mean, even if your salary is less than ideal starting out, you may have already gotten an idea of whether or not this company promotes internally. But once you've received an offer, you're more free to ask what these internal movements look like financially. So one example for me is, this is a tech adjacent role, but I used to be a technical sourcer for a company. Sourcers do like initial screenings, that kind of thing. And then once those candidates are screened, they are passed off to recruiters. So I was told from the get-go that sourcers are brought on. The immediate promotion path is to become a recruiter. Sourcers just made a flat salary. Recruiters got a salary bump and made commission on the candidates that ended up getting offers. So having those conversations and understanding, obviously that's not really a direct application to like a junior level role, but having those conversations about what those promotions may mean financially. And then lastly, if there's not a whole lot of internal movement possibility, making sure that there's like inflation raises, or there are raises that coincide with evaluations yearly or things like that, is always a conversation you can have like in that offer stage. Cool. So that's kind of my bullet points there. Just looking back at the chat here, anybody feel free to come off mute or whatever. Sandy says, for junior level positions, it's unlikely that even your hiring manager can change the salary. Yeah, that's true. It is very true. But, you know, if they don't have, you know, most of this conversation, I think, sparked from what do you say when, you know, you just get asked how much money you need to make. And there's no bracket on the job posting, you know, there's nothing there. Because I think that that's pretty intimidating, especially for people coming from, I think the person who initially asked was someone who was coming from nonprofits, where the pay is not usually ideal. So just keeping all these things in mind. But yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, I think specifically what I meant was that, one, for remote roles and for roles that are, I think there's a few states now, like Colorado, New York, California, where salary transparency means they have to list
Yeah,
a
they
range.
do have to post it. Mm-hmm.
The other thing about salary negotiations, there's often multiple components, especially in tech. And at a startup, you might get offered equity. You might, and like even if it's a public company, you might get offered equity as part of your compensation. And I would highly recommend treating equity as worthless. I don't think that gets emphasized enough.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people might like they will tell you like, oh, we're going to give you $40,000 in equity over 4 years. So that's $10,000 extra that you can count on. And it's really not like that. So just be on the lookout for things like that, where if you're trying to negotiate, make sure that you're getting kind of things that matter to you, whether it's benefits or base salary, rather than things that maybe are easier for the company to grant, but aren't really going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing I actually meant to type up in here that I was going to include was, for me personally, there are other, there's other external factors that come in with salary. So for example, when I left my last job to come work at Code Louisville, Code Louisville falls under the like governmental organization, nonprofit world, where I can be re-enrolled in the public service loan forgiveness option. So that was a big plus. I make about the same salary wise as I did at my last job, but I obviously don't make commission here at Code Louisville. But that was a big plus for me because I already have like 6 years banked out of the 10 years I need in the PSLF from my past work experience. So that was a big plus for me moving back into the nonprofit, kind of government space, that I could restart that work towards the PSLF forgiveness. So there's other factors too that you can always consider if you have loans like me. And that might be, if you have 2 offers and, one is a slightly more salary increase, but there's a little jump like that from another one, there's always things like that you might want to consider. What's this, Brandy? Oh no, I'm scared.
It's just the link to the student.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh no, did they end it? What's going on? Thank you. Any other questions?
Anybody hasn't looked into that,
Yeah.
you need to reconsolidate before I think the end of July or something to qualify for the new program.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do have a public service job, get on it immediately.
Yeah. Any other questions about, I know I kind of ran through that really quickly. Any other questions about salaries, interviewing, any other stuff we talked about today? August, Monica, anything else you all want to address?
No, not too much. You hit another one head right there. Thank you so much for that. Last thing I just really want to mention is in regards to the actual job search. Okay. I know that people start Googling things and jobs, stuff like that, and you start seeing a volatile job market, right? Don't be afraid of that. All right. No matter what job that you go into, it's going to be a volatile job market. Still apply. The worst thing you hear is the word no. All right. And don't be afraid to hear the word no. We have to deal with it all the time. I'd rather hear no than hear nothing at all. But no, just be willing to put yourself out there, willing to hear the word no, and track where you're applying to. Okay. And that's all I have on that one. Miss Monica?
I don't really have anything to add. Thank you, everyone, for staying a few minutes past our time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Feel free to reach out to any of us on Slack or email. Get us added on LinkedIn if you don't have us on there already. And hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Yeah, have a good one. Thank you for coming out.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, everybody. Have a great week.